Silver has been used for centuries for natural human health and has proven to be an effective alternative as a defense against germs, bruises, bacteria, and disease. Mycronic silver technology is superior to other silver products and is specially formulated to work with your immune system for an affordable, natural health choice. Check out mychronicsilver.net today and see why customers are choosing Mycronic Silver, fast-acting and reliable. That's mychronicsilver.net.
Awesome. We are on, you guys. It's Friday. We're starting a little late today. Welcome to American Perspective with your host, Noelle Roberts, Patriot Mom 007. We're here in Arizona, and we have a great show again today. I've been working to get this guest for a little while now and had some hurdles, so we're so glad she's here. I'll bring her on in a little bit. As you know, I like to start with a few news stories from around our country because so much is always happening, and try to highlight some things that aren't always on mainstream cable. Although today, the big story is, of course, the shutdown that is occurring currently. They say the Democrats caused after they had, hold on, I got a little double audio over here somewhere. Let me just get rid of that. And they had originally okayed this CR last time it came around as it is written currently, yet this time they are not wanting to do that. So I've got my first video from JD Vance, our vice president, and he's going to talk a little bit about what is going on and why they are opposing the same CR that they previously had voted to approve, and now they've created the shutdown. So go ahead with number one, Robert.
This is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are two Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number one is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
So there you go. Really, the bottom line is on the Republican side is we don't want to fund medical health care for illegal aliens. I mean, this makes the most sense. We want to bring the money back in for all the Americans that need it, the elderly, those, who put into the system all their years. So I don't think it's unreasonable of the Republicans to hold their ground on this one. And ultimately, we noticed that since President Trump came into office, his goal, number one, seems to be saving. There we go. We lost our. There we go. Let's see. We're having little, there we go. IT gremlins. Awesome. It looks like President Trump is really just always trying to save Americans money and make it the best America he can for us, those who pay into the system and who have been here legally and the right way. So I'm sure that the Dems are going to have to cave. I heard this morning, I think 3 more might be heading over to the other side. They only needed 5 to get this passed. So I expect, I mean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest. Maybe they'll let it go through the weekend. There are a lot of people not getting paid. And in fact, our number 2 graphic, let's bring that up. I'm just going to read it out to you guys.
This is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not.
Mentions about this, that our law enforcement officers will continue to work throughout the Democrat shutdown to make sure our homeland is safe and secure. More than 200,000, though, of our men and women in uniform are going to go without pay, yet they're going to work. The Democrats will be forcing over 150,000 officers and nearly 50,000 members of the military, our front line of defense, to continue protecting our nation without best of our society, really even pay right now. And they put themselves and their lives, their families, really existence on the line normally. And now they're doing it and not going to take a paycheck. So hopefully this will resolve itself quicker than not, because that in itself is not okay for those who give the most to us. Number 3, we're going to roll through because we did get a little late start. This is going to be a video with our President Trump, and this is going to go into a little bit about what we're talking about today. He announced a deal with Pfizer. And I mean that only to say that we are going to be going into some of the related drug issues that have been brought to light this last week with the administration and the bans they've brought to our attention that should occur for the safety of some of us in our society. And our guest is going to speak on that today. But this actually has to do with lowering drug costs, which President Trump tried to implement in 2016 administration. He was doing a great job. I don't think he finished that. I know Biden tried to take some credit, certainly for diabetic medications and others during his term. He did not, in fact, lower those drug prices, although I think they were using some subsidy money from our government to look as though they lowered those costs for Americans. But in fact, that is not what happened. And so now that President Trump is back in, he's finishing his deals, first with Pfizer, who came on board. He expects all of the other drug big pharma to come on board as well, which obviously, let's just be realistic. If President Trump says it's going to happen in a business deal, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I mean, I'm guessing at that, but it seems that everything he says he's going to do, he pretty much does. So we assume this will happen as well. And so anyone who diabetic, asthma medications, I mean, these things are very expensive. And I know my son had asthma. The inhalers were outrageous back in the day. And that was, 15 years ago. So we hope this does come through. So let's hear from President Trump and what he intends to do for Americans in this respect.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce that one of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers and one of the best anywhere in the world, Pfizer, has agreed to offer countless prescription medications at major discounts in the United States as a result of the most favored nation drug pricing order that we established earlier this year. As you know, the United States is paying sometimes 10 times more than other countries for drugs, and a lot of excuses were made for that, but it went on for many years, many years, decades, and it's not going on any longer. We're going to be paying the lowest price now. We're going to be paying whatever the lowest price is, favored nations. This will save American taxpayers and consumers hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Perfect. So you heard it from our president, Donald Trump. He intends to get these prescriptions down at a discounted rate, favored nations pricing, which he has been talking about for a very long time. I think we will see it. I mean, it's fall, so let's give him a minute, as I say, because he has done everything in warp speed. And which is kind of ironic because, he put out that vaccine in warp speed. They called it that. Now, what he's doing now, and some people have a problem with that vaccine, right, from COVID. So there's pros and cons to everything, including all vaccines. And I know our guest is going to be able to speak a little bit about that as well. She's very familiar with this side of the medical industry, personally in her profession and privately with her family. So we'll have a really good overview of some of what's happening in this respect. And with that, we're going to bring up our commercial that I like to play. Freedom Academy Charter School is here in North Phoenix, Arizona. I sit on the school board, have for a couple of years. We just did an amazing revamp of our school. We are back to basics, non-woke, traditional school. We're K through 8. And we have very small classes. Our teachers are amazing. So your students get very individualized studies. We're all academics, and we like to uphold what President Trump has put in place regarding Title IX. We keep boys and girls in private spaces separate, as they should be always kept. And we promote that actually within our school. Our parents are we have a lot of, I think, traditional parents that come to our school for that reason. And so if you're looking for a school to move your children to in North Phoenix or in the surrounding areas, you can always DM me at patriot_mom007 on all the channels. I can get you the information. You can also go to freedomacademyaz.com.org, sorry, and you could sign up online, but feel free to reach out to me, take a look at our website, and it's a great place for your kids. So let's see what we have going on there. Cool. Awesome. So with that, we are going to get ready to bring up our guest, Tracy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in a minute. But before I do that, I do want to play. This is a clip I created yesterday or a couple days ago, I guess. She had put out a kind of a PSA video and on some information that has come to light. And let's see, this one is Tracy, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Perfect, on Leucovorin. So these are things that I don't know a lot about. We did have a really good friend and colleague of hers on not too long ago, and Krista Petracco-Born. She's a few months ago, she was on, so you can catch that show. We talked about her son and her activism with autism and helping families around our country deal with this issue that seems like has been created by chemicals. I mean, honestly, and I think a lot of our problems in our world are created by chemicals that we ingest, that they give us, whether it's the vaccines, whether it's toxins, whether it's environmental, in the foods. There's so many avenues that bad, harmful things can be introduced into our bodies as adults, and our children's bodies, the babies' bodies in utero. We're finding, I mean, obviously, these are developmental moments of a child's life, and everything you take in as a mom, obviously your baby takes in. And it's not to the fault of moms. Over the years, things are introduced into our society, and we want to trust those that are providing what we think are helpful solutions to our problems, let's say pain in this respect. And things have gone wrong, it seems like, more and more. And in fact, I put out, I mean, I'm going to actually just talk about that right now because I put it out last night. If you guys go online to all the channels, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Rumble, I put out this graph on a couple of those channels at Patreon_mom007 and PMom007 on X. This is autism prevalence that has increased. Sorry, I don't have it on the screen. 384% since 2000. But if you do go on my channels, you will see this graph of 1 in 10,000 in 1970 children, development of disabilities. And it has gone up increasingly. From 95, it was 1 in 1,000. And then it spiked in 2000 to 1 in 150. And then by 2022, it really spiked. CDC reported 1 in 31 children are diagnosed. So from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 31 doesn't seem right. Now, I always like to say I'm a manicurist by trade, not a mathematician, but those numbers sound terrible for this circumstance. And I don't think you need to have math skills for that, but we're going to learn more about it. And so let's do number 4, hear from Tracy herself on this subject. Then I'll give you a bio and we'll bring her on.
Also, I would like to address Leucovorin, because so many parents are contacting me and they're like, oh my gosh, Leucovorin, is this going to heal my child? Now, here's the thing about Leucovorin. And I did write a Substack about it. So if you go to autismwarriormom.substack.com, you can look up the benefits of Leucovorin and read that article, and it'll explain everything about Leucovorin. So first of all, most of you don't even know what Leucovorin is, so I'm going to just give a short explanation. So Leucovorin is folinic acid, and it is the active form of folate, B9. So the great thing about Leucovorin is, unlike synthetic folic acid, folinic acid does not require activation by the MTHFR enzyme to be able to enter the brain. So those kids with MTHFR mutations, and I can tell you most of them have them. My son has it. I have it. It would be a great genetic test to have done on your child, but you know, it's the body's inability to folate, to methylate properly so you can get rid of toxins. And so the number one thing is with children with autism spectrum disorder is typically they create autoantibodies that block folate receptors. Now, Leucovorin is able to bypass that and get into the brain. Typically, Leucovorin is used actively for cerebral folate deficiency, and it is quite successful. So I'm not saying that it's not going to be helpful, and I am so grateful that it's actually out there, that it is, you know, a treatment for autism. But I recommend that you find the proper, possibly functional medicine doctor to assist you on this journey with you or your child in regards to folate deficiency.
All right, so that was a little bit of information that you're probably not familiar with. I was not familiar with it. And we're going to learn about this together, because it is a little complicated because it's chemical, right? And so luckily our guest has all this knowledge behind her. But Tracy Slepcevic is a certified integrative health practitioner. She's an Air Force veteran and a public speaker. She's also an amazing best-selling author of Warrior Mom, A Mother's Journey in Healing Her Son with Autism, and the founder of Autism Health, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, as well as founder of the Autism Health Summit. She's educated in the field of complementary and alternative medicine and has dedicated over 16 years to researching various treatments and therapies for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Over the years, she has worked with many doctors, scientists, and advocates and researchers, and she has made it her mission to educate families on the importance of living a healthy lifestyle. So with that, we're going to welcome a first time, and so glad she's here, to the show, Tracy Slepcevic.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, Tracy, thanks for your patience back there.
No worries.
Thank you for being on today with me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. We're so glad to see you. And so you heard what I started with. I took that out of your, I call it a PSA, right? And because it was educational. And so I guess we're going to go back to all the heavy details of this subject, the chemical issues we're discussing, but let's just start real simply. I want to talk about just the journey with your son in a personal level. We'll get to the medical side in a minute, that led you to write your book, Warrior Mom, and start your 501c3 Autism Health organization.
And what a beautiful journey that was. And so I decided to write my book when COVID started, and I saw them rolling out a new vaccine. So when my son was 1, he he received his MMR and varicella vaccines. And within 24 hours, he had a very high grade fever, and that fever went on for a while. And then he broke out in what we think is measles. And I was told that it was a rash. Everything was normal. Don't worry about it. It's all normal. And then over time, Noah started to lose his speech, eye contact, a lot of, motor skills, cognitive function. It was like the lights went out in my little boy. And over time, I just kept asking the pediatrician questions. Why is my son regressing? Oh, it's normal. So I really wanted parents to know that it's not normal. It's not normal for your child to regress. It's not normal for your child to lose all their speech and motor skills and so on and so forth. And I really wanted to warn families as well, which is very important. I also wanted to give them a protocol that they could follow, a very simple protocol. If you just start with the basics, diet, what is your kid eating? The number one thing that will impact your child, and I always recommend it before doing any types of treatments or therapies or anything, especially ones that are costly, is to clean out the gut first. If you do not address the gut, it really inhibits the body's ability to take on those treatments and therapies effectively. Our gut is connected to our brain via our nervous system. So if you have any type of inflammation, dysbiosis, leaky gut, yeast, any of that, pathogens in the gut that causes inflammation, that yeast is going to compete with the body for any type of vitamins and nutrients and proteins. And then a lot of these kids are going to be deficient. So you'll start to see like dark circles around the eyes, distended bellies. A lot of them, might have gas, pain in the gut. And another sign is when you see them playing in their poop, or if they're picking at their butt, is another sure sign that they definitely have a messed up gut. So really addressing the gut first before you implement any other types of treatments and therapies. And I think it's great that slowly but surely they're going to start coming out and announcing the benefits of different types of medications or treatments and therapies that hopefully will be approved by the FDA so they can be covered by insurance. Wouldn't that be wonderful? All those hundreds of thousands of dollars that as parents have spent on our children, to get them the best care, but yet it wasn't covered by insurance because it's not a treatment for autism. So all those things are really starting to come out. It's funny when I look at the video that I created because I was super sick. It was like take one, take two, because I kept coughing in the middle. So it was almost like I was like holding my breath in between. But I got it out the best that I can. Acetaminophen is definitely a contributor, to autism. So we always say that, all of us have pre-genetic dispositions, and it's going to be some sort of environmental factor that can kick in just about anything, whether it be neurodegeneration, cancer, any ailment. Right. So there's an environmental factor, but typically a lot of these kids, and more than 90% of these kids, have MTHFR gene mutation. That means their body doesn't methylate properly. And if they don't methylate properly, then they don't get rid of toxins properly. So, if you have something like that in mitochondrial disorder, so it's kind of like the building blocks. It kind of leads to, depleted glutathione, which leads to which leads to mitochondrial disorder. There are these, it's all kind of interconnected. So when you administer something like acetaminophen depletes glutathione, and it also opens up the blood-brain barrier. So what happens when you take your child in for for a round of vaccines and they run a fever, what are you told? You're told to typically rotate Tylenol and Motrin. Not let the body actually do what it's supposed to and burn off the virus naturally. So one, you're going to prolong the virus. If it's, if you have a child with seizure disorder, that's different. Once you start to get into, fevers over 104, then you take the risk of seizures, definitely. In regards to pregnant women, it's the same thing. It's definitely not a good idea. There's over 1,000 published studies in mainly PubMed in regards to the dangers of acetaminophen. And it is the number one cause of liver failure. So a lot of people really don't know that. And, we always think like, oh, well, the number one cause is alcoholism or something, but it's not. It's actually Tylenol. And then I just found out recently, and I really didn't know this until the last couple of days, where I saw a post from a doctor who said that the Tylenol that has like the coating around, the tablet, it's actually, the coating has aluminum in it. So you're taking acetaminophen and you're opening up the blood-brain barrier. You're allowing all those neurotoxins to get to the brain, and it's just an easy avenue. And the reason why, boys are more susceptible than girls, because girls have different hormones, and those hormones actually protect them a little more than boys do. So we have a higher prevalence in boys than we do girls. But all in all, the pre-genetics to me is the loaded gun. And the environmental toxins, and there's many. There's vaccines, there's acetaminophen, there's glyphosate, there's so much out there. And there isn't just neurotoxins in vaccines. There's more than that. There's, we got formaldehyde, we have, fetal tissue, there's a crazy number of things in vaccines. And I highly recommend that people look it up. I mean, don't believe me. Who am I? But I'm all for informed consent. I want parents to know what they're putting into their children's bodies, and I want them to know the dangers and what they're putting in their own bodies as well. Because, so many people died from the COVID vaccine. So many were injured. I have a dear friend of mine that recently, she just was diagnosed with a blood clot in her brain. And I know where it came from. And I was always so concerned, because she was one of those that went out and she was scared. So she went out and got the COVID vaccine. And, these are the things it's causing. It's causing, myocarditis. It's causing blood clots. It's, the spike protein is just not, it's not a good thing. And has it actually, eradicated the virus? Was it effective at all? Let's just look at efficacy. We don't have any of it, not for the COVID vaccine for sure. And then if you remove adjuvants like aluminum and mercury and all those things from the other vaccines, which I'm game for, at least those that insist on giving their children vaccinations, at least they will be less toxic. But, even those, pose their dangers. But I want people to know. I just, I want to be in the middle. I want to be the solutions girl. I don't want to be the doom and gloom. Oh no, you need to focus on, what caused your child's injury. And, today my son's 20 years old. He's fully functioning. He's fine. He was definitely brainwashed in high school. We have this conversation all the time. And, last night it's still a back and forth thing. And I said, listen, I'm going to continue to plant the seed, whether you listen to me or you don't listen to me. Eventually the truth always reveals itself, and God always wins. So, and I say he's on his own beautiful path, and he does very well. He's very independent. He works full time so he can travel. And I absolutely love that he is, he can take care of himself now, but he doesn't remember not being able to take care of himself. So he very much follows that narrative of, I was born with autism. I was not vaccine injured. And I'm like, oh, so me and thousands, probably millions of parents out there who have the exact same story where we took our child in for a set of vaccines and then they regressed, or some parents lost their children, and a lot of parents lost their children to a wheelchair. So there are many different things, many different types of injuries from vaccinations. And if they can't just look at what really happened, in 1986, where they, where vaccine manufacturers were no longer liable for any type of vaccine injury. And after that, it was like, oh, well, we can just triple the vaccine schedule. And then it goes from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,000, and then 1 in 500. And it just keeps climbing and climbing. And, the 1 in 31 was only 8-year-olds. It wasn't an age range from 2 to 17 is what I truly think should be done. A study, because what about all those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds that have already been diagnosed are not being included in that study? And then that study comes out late, and Kennedy brought this up too. He said we shouldn't be 4 years behind on releasing a study. When it's completed, it should be released. So it should have been released in 2022, not this year. So we're always behind the game. We're usually behind about 4 years. So every 4 years they'll come out with for the last study, and then they'll start a new one. But tell me where, I have this argument with my son. He's like, they just got better at testing. I said, so tell me where all this 60, 70, and 80-year-olds with autism are. And I said, and you weren't in classrooms when me and your dad were kids. There was nobody who had special needs and needed assistance on any level. There might have been an occasional ADD, but they did have processed foods when I was a kid. So there were dyes in foods, and we ate garbage, that's for darn sure. But all these different things that keep coming about. But in regards to leucovorin, just remember, find the right functional medicine doctor or pediatrician that is open to the idea, that has the education of, whether leucovorin is the best for your child, because they could start them on L-methylfolate or methylated B12. It really depends on the child. Is that child really producing those autoantibodies to block the folate from entering the brain? And so we really just want to express that it's a tool for the toolbox. It's not a cure, but yes, it does make a difference in a lot of children and individuals in general. So is it worth trying? I think so. And I've known about the dangers of acetaminophen for a very long time, and I wrote about both of them, the benefits of leucovorin for autism and the dangers of acetaminophen from like 6 or 7 months ago on my Substack, Autism Warrior Mom. So it's a matter of doing your research, do your homework. Don't believe me. Who am I? I'm nobody. So.
And so I wanted to ask you, no, the information is amazing and hopeful, I think, for a lot of parents who don't keep track of everything. And you're going to have to forgive me. I know I told you I have this double audio situation. It has not resolved itself. So I'm hearing you, and then I'm hearing you right behind you, which is interesting. That's never happened. So I'm actually reading your lips on the screen to keep track of what you say the first time around, because then I hear it a second time. So if I ask a question that you covered, forgive that. As far as the Tylenol, I heard you mention the coating and the acetaminophen, and well, we shouldn't say Tylenol, right? Because there's generic versions of that. So it's not a brand situation. It's a what am I looking for? It's the pill itself.
Right.
Yeah. And so is it really just the coating that you mentioned that's the problem? It's not the ingredients itself that we're finding, or is it just the way it's put together? And forgive me again if you did cover this, I apologize. What are the alternatives? And I did hear, I know you spoke on your video about some natural, like the baths that we used to do. You know, we used to do cool. In fact, speaking of that, my dad's 98. He just turned 98, and he spikes fevers often. You know, at that age, he ends up with UTIs here and there, and so it'll just happen. You know, it's always like 11 o'clock at night. Of course, he'll spike like 102, and our first go-to, of course, is Tylenol because it takes the fever down. And it does. And then he doesn't have to go into the ER because then they just give it to him there. But the last couple times, you know, I'd say, let's just get a cool cloth and put it on his forehead and see if we can just cool him down naturally. Now, that's the extreme because we're talking children and he's 98. But the same, I think, theory holds true with children. They might even be easier unless it's a 106 and you're getting really high. So for parents, and I was a worry wart as a parent, as a mom. I was a single mom with my two boys. They're 20 and 23 now, and they would tell you, I mean, I couldn't have been a nurse. Let's just say that, and it's not my field of expertise, but it's really hard when you're a parent or a single parent and things happen. You know, it always seems the kids get sick at night. Like, what is the best advice you can give to our moms and dads out there who, when these things happen, like what should they be thinking initially that they should be doing? Because I do like to give resources like this, and I know that you're not intending to diagnose or treat anybody. We'll say that right now. This is not what this is about, but you do have integrative health medicine in your background. That's what you do, and that's where you're trained. So I think that this would be a valid question for anybody. It would be for you.
So thank you for that disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm educated. I went to school for alternative medicine. But to me, in my personal and professional opinion, I feel that you should let the body run a fever for as long as you can and not cool the body down, because the whole point is that the body needs to burn the virus. And if you're cooling the body down, then you're taking away its ability to fight off the virus, and then it's going to prolong the virus. So, God didn't make any mistakes. But once we start to get around 104 and above, then obviously that's some concerns. So you can start off with the lukewarm baths. Do not give a cold bath. The shock to the system is not a good thing. Like a lukewarm bath, you can put nice cool rags, wet rags on them. Or, as a child, when we had fevers, my mom would just let us run around in our underwear. But there are many other holistic things as well. You can, a lot of people soak socks in apple cider vinegar. You just take a thin sock and then you can put like a wool sock over it. Putting onions in your socks.
I heard about that.
Sometimes that's hard for kids who have any type of sensory disorder. It might bother them. And, there's different types of teas and tinctures, and, pick up a apothecary book and find different remedies to take down fevers. So those are, the things that I would recommend. But if you had to, if it was really bad and you had to move into getting your fever reducer, then, maybe making sure that it's with food, but taking Motrin instead. I still kind of lead on the holistic side, but if you have to take something, and I've been there, sometimes you just, you need to take something, either you're in pain or whatever it is, or you have a really, really high grade fever. But up to 104, you really should just let the body burn it off.
So Motrin you mentioned, so we're specifically talking now just about acetaminophen. And I don't know how Aleve plays into that. I can never remember which has what in it. But the Motrin you're saying is acceptable at this point. They're not finding the same counterindicators for, and we're talking pregnant moms and young children. So it's not just in pregnancy now, really, when the children are young with the fevers. And then I also, just to make that distinction, and I also want to say about the vaccines, because you mentioned that in the videos, and I know that's always a hot contention, especially after the COVID vaccine came out, and we saw the myocarditis that you mentioned occur in so many young men, mostly. I mean, literally, I hate to, it's so hard to even say this out loud, but kids just dropping dead in so many areas after 2020 for the next few years. And I'm sure they still are. Frankly, I'm sure that there is still issues happening that we're just not hearing about, right? They suppress all of this type of information, I feel like, because they don't want to bring highlight to any of the negatives that they might bring to the table after they unleash it on the world. But the vaccine, so when the kids were young, as we know, we got them, we got the one, and we probably got a few others back in the 60s. But then when my kids and your kids, I think your son, you said, is how old? 20?
20.
Yeah, 20. Okay, so mine are 20 and 23. So same regimen with the MDs. So what do we do? Just tell our doctors, we just tell our pediatricians, hey, I'm only coming in for, I mean, are you allowed to pick and choose, like polio, mumps, rubella, right? They give the MMR. Are you allowed to tell them, I want to split these up, only give him one today, or don't give him this set? Because it is like nonstop once you start with the pediatrician through what, 8th grade-ish, 9th grade, I think. With the newest one is that, what is it, not VSR, the one I'm talking about for the cancer, but it's an STD related thing.
RSV.
Yes. And they're giving kids at 12 this shot. And I know that there's kids, I get that 12-year-olds are sexually active. I accept that as a thing in 2025. But it still seems a little overkill at that point to just inoculate all the children. And so is that something that you're allowed to do? I mean, just in general, is this accepted to go to your pediatrician and be like, no, we're not doing 5 shots today, and then they swell up? I mean, what are we allowed to do as parents in today's medical world?
I mean, Kennedy and Trump did mention how they want to spread out vaccines. Now, before that was said, you definitely couldn't go to your pediatrician and say, spread these out, because they're getting slapped on the wrist or having their license suspended. So they're taking huge risks, and a lot of them just don't want to do it. They don't get the kickbacks from Big Pharma unless they lump them all up. And that's where pediatricians make their money. So they get kind of angry when you ask for that. And if you ask me, and again, this is my personal opinion, you don't need a pediatrician. If your kid is sick, you can always take them to urgent care if it's super important, or God forbid, if they need to go to the emergency room. But pediatrician visits are just designed to vaccinate. And, I'm not a proponent for any vaccine. So I can't sit here and promote it and say, go to your pediatrician, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to talk you into, and they're going to tell you, oh, but if you don't get these vaccines for your children, then they'll die. They'll get a crazy virus and they'll die. Because, I got measles when I was a kid. My sisters got measles. We all got measles. And I lived through it. And I know so many other children who live through it. And my son got measles from the vaccine. So doesn't guarantee that you won't get the actual virus most people got COVID from the COVID vaccine. There's a really good example. So to me, I just, I trust my God-given immunity to protect me. I boost my immunity. So taking immune boosters, taking vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, all those different things that are going to boost your immune system. When COVID hit, me and my family were going to get IV immune boosters with glutathione, because I felt it was super important for us to boost our immune system. None of us got COVID, and none of us got the COVID vaccine. Although I had these great arguments with my child who thought, why can't I get the COVID vaccine? I said, for one, you can die. For two, all your friends who've gotten the COVID vaccine got COVID. So, and you didn't. So I just rest my case. And, and now he's 20, he's still comes to me for his medical advice. And he's like, he doesn't want to disappoint me. And he knows that I worked really hard to get him healthy. So we definitely have these conversations. He thinks vaccines saved lives back then. He's sucked into the narrative of,
Right.
of believing so. But I'm here to tell you, even the one that everyone just thinks saved lives, Kennedy just put out a video that clearly showed that all viruses, all vaccines that, are not responsible for eradicating those viruses. Those viruses were beginning to be eradicated before the virus was ever rolled out, or before the vaccine was ever rolled out. And so if you go ahead and you look at how in history how they cleaned up the water system, then we started having indoor plumbing and toilets that flush, and then they also started cleaning up the food system as well. They started pasteurizing and homogenizing milk to make sure that there's no bacteria, all these different things. I'll tell you, a big one was the water. So thank your plumber, not big.
Wow. So and people don't realize environmentally, I mean, there are so many factors here. So I know that it is really hard to put a pin on one thing. I think it's nice that they have been able to narrow this down. And a lot of people, of course, just like the COVID vaccine that you mentioned, your son bought into it. So my kids are not vaccinated, and they bought into the opposite narrative. Like they see the space I'm in, and they believe the space I'm in, like what I've shown them. They're very behind how I believe. But my parents, who they're very close to, and who we actually helped care for over those years of COVID, they took the vaccine, and they were 93 and I think 87 at the time. And so maybe indicated for older people, we didn't know what was going on. It was killing older people instantaneously, practically. And I don't know the science behind that, except that it was a novel virus, and in older people, it hit hard. So I always say here, you do have to consult with the people you trust medically, whether it is alternative medicine doctors, who a lot of us subscribe to nowadays, or whether it's a general medical doctor, old school, like our parents do. My parents listen to what their doctors say. They actually took a second round of it, that first booster round. And I wasn't thrilled about that. But again, at their age, it's kind of a roll the dice kind of thing for them. At 90 and 98, I don't know, it could have done that much harm. So I guess we err on the side of caution at their age. Where my boys, I was deathly afraid of the heart issue, because they were right at that optimum age that they said the myocarditis was occurring in so many of young boys. And my boys were very active in sports. And so that was a huge fear for me. I wish, as far as vaccines go in general, there were times, especially with my youngest, they're 3 years apart, that I didn't really pay attention as much to my older one when it was happening with those multiple shots. You just did it as a first-time parent, and you just don't know any better. And it wasn't really talked about, 23 years ago. But with my second, I really started noticing that you get those batches of shots. And I remember a couple times specifically where he was so miserable, the arm was swelling, and he used ice. And that's when I started thinking, gosh, all these shots at once, I don't think this is a good thing. But of course, you're just going along with your pediatrician, and they're like, you need to do this, and you want to get in school, right? You got to show the records, and you have to bring the record card in to get signed off. So it's sort of like they're holding you hostage, basically, to get your kids into school. And where my sister, we grew up in Oregon, she did not give her kids vaccinations. Now, she did homeschool most of those years as well, I think, to avoid that issue with the vaccination requirement. And I know a lot of parents have done that over the years. And so, we came in the same household. We were both vaccinated, and she took that route. And I actually thought, gosh, what is she doing all those years? Her kids are older than mine. And nothing was ever discussed then. So I just like to say that whatever the point is, that the people who listen to this show and to you and your personal experiences, and Krista too, because we brought this up in her show as well a few months ago, I mean, yes, these are opinions. However, people do have to do their own research. And I don't mean just asking their pediatrician at this point. There's so much information out there now that it is very important for parents to get in there and research it. And I'm not even saying Google, because they don't always give you the best information on the first couple of pages. So now we have to really look a little bit further, maybe at government reports. Things are available to us. And I did hear, I'm going to bring this video up just to regroup about, this is Dr. Drew on the Tylenol situation. He says a little bit more about it, what we were talking about. So go ahead and play number 5 for me, Robert.
And then people jumped into, well, what about inflammation? Acetaminophen is not an anti-inflammatory. It is not. And I can think of 0 conditions. I may be crazy high fevers, but even when there's a number of ways to lower the temperature, but then you take the risk reward into analysis, and then you might use the acetaminophen.
When do you need Tylenol?
I don't think and when the fever's over 105.
So
you might want to do it then.
It's really to break a extremely high fever.
Yes.
It's not gonna.
And there's a bunch of other stuff you can do.
You don't need it for 101?
No.
Why not?
Because it might have a risk with autism. You could use it for 101 if you're not pregnant, but you don't need it.
Yeah. So he says it right there, what you just described. It's those high fevers. And hold on, I'm still having some, hold on, guys. I'm having a little bit of, this double audio is killing me today, you guys. So Dr. Drew just described what we were talking about. And it's the extreme highs when you might need to go to something in the medicine cabinet, but the natural immunity, which we've all gotten away from, that they have gotten us away from with modern medicine. I don't know how great that is. Sometimes old school is, I think I would say, the best school. And so that was just, I wanted to highlight that because it was just to your point and what's happening currently. And Dr. Drew is a well-respected doctor. He's been around for, 30 years that I can remember, 35 years that I can remember. So we need to expand our horizons, I think, is the takeaway from this part of the conversation, and not just rely on what you've heard from other parents in your groups. Go back to the chickenpox parties. Gosh, I don't even know kids who get chickenpox anymore, to tell you the truth. I had them. I don't even hear about it anymore. And my kids didn't have it, and none of their friends had it. So I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, gone by the wayside. Even some of these things aren't as prevalent as what they used to be. And so then we have Dr. Marty Makary. They held a press conference the other day, President Trump did, with Dr. Oz and Dr. Makary, and they've been working on this, specifically the Leucovorin that we started with at the top of the show when you came on. And they had some questions. He brought this up. So I want to play this, and then we can kind of recap that. And then I want to really talk to you about your autism, your organization, and your health summit coming up in 2026 as well, because that's just a few months away. So I want to get that in. So play number 6 for me, and we're going to wrap up our medical side of this.
Thank you. Leucovorin is not a chemotherapy, but it is a vitamin given with chemotherapy sometimes. And the idea here is that the folic acid receptor in the brain is blocked by some antibody response. It might be 20, 40, 50% of kids with autism. And Leucovorin will bypass that blocked receptor. And that's why so many doctors are probably seeing so much clinical improvement on kids with Leucovorin.
So are you going to increase production?
Yeah, we've been in touch with the companies, and they are prepared to ramp up production. We actually talked to them about a month ago.
So it sounds like they're on this new train. I've never heard of this. And is this administered? Is this orally? Is this a pill? Is this IV treatment? How do parents get this for their kids, this Leucovorin?
It's a pill. It's a prescription.
Okay.
So, and it's been around for treatment for autism for a while.
Okay.
So it's just being brought to light now. But
okay, well, that's
typically
good.
It would be for, if doctors could diagnose cerebral folate deficiency or FRAA and, those types of things that, it produces those antibodies that block the folate from entering into the brain. So, a good number of these kids have folate deficiency, and would it benefit them? Yeah. Are there side effects? I guess, the only one I really heard of the side effects is like maybe extreme hyperactivity or whatever. But then they would either just taper down, I guess. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but I do know that leucovorin's been around
But it helps with their speech. Like I read last night, it helps with a few of the specifics of autism spectrum disorder. I don't know if it's the focus and the speech, maybe a little bit different for each child too, how it interacts. I thought more than that, it was interesting that he mentions it with chemotherapy and that it crosses over into this. And I know a lot of drugs do that. That I always find that interesting as well. When you hear that it's used for something extreme, cancer related, and then it can also do something like the GLP-1s, I guess. This is a perfect example. Now everybody's can lose 50 pounds in 6 months, but it's, to treat other things. So is this something you need to advocate? Is this widely appreciated by the MDs of our society, Leucovorin with autism, or are they needing to be persuaded to get into that space? Do they offer this? Is this something parents should know about readily if their child is experiencing this issue?
It's a tool for the toolbox. If there's possibility that your child could benefit from it, especially if they have, an MTHFR gene mutation, and like I said, over 90% of these kids do, then, they could do like antibodies testings, but to see if they have those antibodies, but it's not guaranteed. That sometimes that produces false positives, or false negatives. It could be one way or the other. So, definitely just learning more about it. You can ask your doctor. The reason I say functional medicine is because a lot of just basic pediatricians or general practitioner doctors aren't going to jump on the bandwagon of prescribing leucovorin, I'm going to assume. And there are other things that doctors could start first. They could start with L-methylfolate. They could start with methylated B12 injections, or
Well, I think
oral.
it's
It's really hard for oral to bypass the gut. And then I definitely wouldn't recommend GLP-1s.
No, yeah, I know that. I know people get on, like the newest thing and they think this is going to be great. And I suppose it does help some people, but I know that there's some serious side effects with that in itself. And, but it's good that you have, and here's that chart we talked about earlier. And then here's he's got Robert's cycling through our graphics. This is, you can see that increase I talked about, and that's posted online, of that 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 31 over the years. 384% increase is just startling. This is your Facebook group on Unfiltered. Let's see. I do want to mention that as well.
Yeah,
And that is Autism Unfiltered is the Facebook group. Also, you can get Tracy on X at Autism Mom Tracy. And then we're going to bring up there's your website. Oh, wait, that's Robert, I'm sorry. I can't even see. I've got my screen.
I think Instagram is Autism Author Mama.
Perfect.
And
the website is autismhealth.com. Let's bring up that website, Robert, because I do want Autism Author Mama. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Working on here.
And probably at the bottom of those, I think my website guy has, the links to the different, of course, we have a Facebook page for Autism Health Inc. We have an Instagram page for Autism Health Inc. Almost everything that I pretty much post on my personal, I post on the nonprofit site. And, if people are looking for articles, updated articles on things, I write a lot of articles through Substack, which is Autism Warrior Mom. And
I also noticed, your website is very, it's full of information. I looked through it, and you know, you have, I like the make a difference tab. If people are looking to get involved, I do always want to let people know that, you know, you do take volunteers. So
We
that's
do.
always important. I do some volunteer work around town. We don't always talk about that for the organizations, the founders I have on the show. We always talk about the products or, you know, the subject, whatever that is. But all these people that we host, I mean, they nothing runs on its own. Let's just be real. And not everybody has the funding to support everything they're trying to accomplish. So for those people who are in a space where maybe they're semi-retired, maybe you have family members that are afflicted with autism spectrum disorder, they've been diagnosed, or you just want to get involved in a healthy, productive way. I sit on a couple different boards. I volunteer with an organization that we work with veterans and some other things around town. So there's different ways to help out. And this seems like a really valuable way to put your time in. And then you also, of course, let's talk about the donation tab, because again, nothing runs for free. And I know you do a lot throughout the year. And of course, we're going to talk about the summit you had in 25, and then 26 summit is coming up. I think it's April. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I got that. Okay.
And I also want
That
people
memory.
to know that our nonprofit organization is 100% volunteer based. So it's all volunteers.
And then also they can find, just to go to the website again too, I mean, you have testimonials from people. There is an events tab. You know, you can read about the organization, the team itself, what they're accomplishing. There we go. Thanks, Robert. And then the events, of course. So I just encourage people to go to the website and to take a look around. It's autismhealth.com, and see if you can plug in or just share the website. You know, Tracy said this on her video the other day. I heard you say, don't believe me when I'm telling you, you know, about the Leucovorin or about any of it, really. Do your own research is what she said. And I say that every week here as well. When we promote products that I'm familiar with, you know, at the top of the hour, I do the Mycronic Silver. I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Adam, but this product I started using in December. I talked with him in person at America Fest here. And so I
Jeffrey,
brought,
he's one of my sponsors.
oh, perfect, perfect. So Jeff, he's great. So I started using for the products, and no idea, no knowledge of any of these products at all. And I'm learning through this space, the Maha space, with all the new medical advancements, the clean, good products with basically, I would say, I hate to say zero ingredients because there's stuff in here, but odorless, colorless, tasteless, clean, you know, what it says it is what it is. And so I always say, don't trust me, like you said, do your research, try something, talk to your doctors. We know what we know, and we're trying to convey the information to people, but we're not the experts, and we're just hoping that what we bring to this audience or your followers who do click on your sites, that they just have extra information to expand their knowledge base for their children, for their grandkids, or, you know, anyone that they know that might be in the space that they need these resources and help. And that's really what I try to do, is bring the resources. So talking about your summit, we have, Robert, do you have that link, ahsconference.com? Can we put that up? It'll be on the events page too, I believe. Perfect. So we've got the conference coming up. Tell us about 2025's, how that was, where that was held, and 26, where that will be held, and what people can expect, if there's a cost, you know, the day, what it looks like, if it's an 8-hour, one day, or a few days. Give them a little bit about that.
So it's a 2.5-day conference. It is April 24th, 5th, and a half day on the 26th. And it'll be in San Diego, California. We have our highlight speakers are Del Bigtree and Aaron Siri. I'm super excited about Aaron coming to speak. And, you know, we have Dr. Brian Hooker. We have Dawn Marie Gavin, who talks about the Speller's method. We have a great group of, you know, panelists. So we do have a lot of the top doctors speaking. And everything, pertaining to addressing underlying conditions, what are, some environmental factors of, that could contribute to a decline in autism. So I'm just going to put it that way. But it's a professional conference. We also do offer CME credits for any type of professionals who need CME credits, continuing medical education. And it's just a fun time. We will do, Friday we do a VIP reception, and then we do a big VIP dinner on Saturday evening. It's a jam-packed week. So I hope everyone can join us right now. Tickets are discounted. And, as of January 1st, they will go up $50. And that's all the tickets. So they will take a little hike. So for now, I do my best to drive down ticket prices to the best of my ability. It doesn't even typically cover all the food and beverage and everything that we serve. But luckily our sponsors help make up for that.
And I suppose you can always use more sponsors. Like that's probably always the thing.
Always.
Right? So we'll put that out there too. I mean, not knowing who ever watches or who people know. So here's what I say about my show too. Like, if people watch the show and they love it, great, and they follow, awesome, better, and they come back every week, fantastic. But if they just hear something or see a subject matter, I always say, if you don't hit the follow button, I mean, darn it. But the goal is to share the information. So just hit the share button, because maybe you can't sponsor, but maybe somebody you share with your group of followers on any of the channels will say, gosh, I want to get involved with this organization and I want to give a little bit more. And maybe they're a corporation that can really put some money behind it. And these are the places we need to find our resources going these days. I always say a lot of people spend a lot of money doing so many things, as I do, as you do, Netflix, Hulu subscriptions. People are still like around the corner, Starbucks and Dutch Brothers. And so people spend a lot of money, right? Target's always full of people. So these are the places that our money matters, and giving our families the best products that we can find, not on the shelves at Walmart necessarily anymore, because we know better, the fillers, the coatings.
But wait, you haven't heard the news report from Walmart.
Oh, what is that?
Okay, so Walmart is actually going to be removing all food dyes and bad preservatives from their shelves.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if it was released yesterday, but I found all the posts all over Facebook yesterday.
Okay, so I'm a poster, more of a poster, less of a reader on Facebook.
Yeah, so it's, Walmart's cleaning up their shelves.
Wow, that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see that roll out.
I know, right?
Okay, I mean, that's fantastic news. I mean, so Walmart being one of the biggest providers to everyone in the world, I guess, or America for sure. I mean, it's so important that these corporations decide at some point that their consumers' health and longevity of life is really what it is. So the longer you're a consumer, the more money they're going to make. So it really does make sense for them to go to the safety side of what they're giving us. It only helps their business plan. For the healthier people are, the more they're going to buy, and generationally, the longer we're going to live. So I think that couldn't be better news. I'm so glad. As a single mom, I grew up in Walmart buying for the kids, because that was affordable as a single mom. And so I know a lot of parents are in that space. Not everybody can shop at Whole Foods, and even Whole Foods, they say, isn't always that great. They have all these disclaimers now in Whole Foods packaging and all the bad organic things that are not truly organic. So I don't know that the store itself matters, but it's good to hear one of the bigger box stores is getting on board with this.
So then other box stores are going to get on board,
yes,
and the manufacturers are going to have.
Well, it's like Pfizer coming on.
They're going to have no choice but to remove,
exactly,
food dyes from cereals and so on and so forth, and make things a lot healthier. I wish that they would they would make manufacturers reveal what natural flavors actually is, because it's a cover up for so many different things like MSG and all kinds of other stuff. So I think this is just the beginning. I think Kennedy's just getting started. He's doing a fabulous job, and little by little, you know, we're winning this war. I'm not even going to say we will win. We are winning the war. And
you've worked with Secretary Kennedy personally now?
Yeah, I am.
And so I assume, I can only imagine, he's one of the cabinet members I have not had the luxury or pleasure of meeting. I've been fortunate before a lot of them were cabinet members to meet them over the last few years. And of course, I find them to all be very like wonderful people. And now they're in our cabinet running our country, which is for me comforting, because having met them not in the cabinet and just getting started over the last few years, you know, if you know who the people are, and I know they get a lot of negative press, of course, President Trump does, but I know, you know, I don't know President Trump, I've not met him, but I know a lot of one off of President Trump, and I've never heard a bad word about him. And that would go, I've met JD Vance and Kash Patel and some of those, and they're all very, I find them to be amazing people. And so I assume, and it's so weird because now that Robert Kennedy is in our administration, you know, it was a whole Democrat thing, like, oh, a Democrat's coming in. But it's like that's not even a thing anymore. Like, they're just an administration working together, which is really the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be party specific at that point. They're all working towards one goal, and that is his goal, I think, to make America healthy again, obviously, and the children especially. And he had his own vaccine injury issues that he claims, you know, with his voice situation. He attributes part of that. And so he has a personal stake in this. And I think that, I always say this too, it boggles my mind that anyone with kids doesn't, that they just go to what they're told, right? Like we did. But now with all this information out there and resources, you'd think that the majority, like let's say 80% instead of 30%, would start really ferreting out their own answers and dig a little bit deeper, because we have the resources on the internet where we don't have to just abide by what we're told in that pediatrician or a medical doctor's office anymore. And it does kind of confuse me that parents are still kind of a little blind and don't want to maybe do the extra research. They don't want to know that there's other truths out there. They don't want to hear the alternative options. So I'm hoping that that's going to start changing with this administration, really bringing to light things like, and like the Leucovorin option for kids on the autism spectrum disorder, and talking to their providers, whoever that may be, and looking at as many alternatives, the healthier product lines, less toxic prescriptions if possible, right? And then go to the Motrin instead of the Acetaminophen, which is just an easy switch. Like, that's not a big deal at all. So I think that gives us all hope. Our kids are aged out, I think, of this issue. I know your son deals with this, and you guys, your family will, you know, for his life. But it sounds like, I mean, he couldn't have a better advocate and a better mom, frankly, in you.
If he listens to me.
I saw him. I saw a picture of you guys. He looks amazing. He looks very, very happy. And he's a beautiful, beautiful boy. Right. And so, so I guess if there's anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share, please do so now. And any other things for the audience you think they might need to know?
No, I mean, the best thing to do is to question everything and, you know, be informed. Inform yourself, because they're not going to do it for you. Trust that Kennedy is doing a great job. And even though they were shaking hands with the devil the other day, right. somehow there is a benefit to that relationship. I'm just trusting. And, you know, moving forward, Leucovorin is a great option. Find the right doctor. These days, you know, a lot of MAPS doctors, but there's a lot of other doctors as well. My favorite, I still love Dr. Jerry Cartsnell. So people can go to drjerryk.com. He's great. You know, he was Jenny McCarthy's doctor back in the day and wrote Healing and Preventing Autism. He definitely has his experience with Leucovorin. But find the right doctor and just trust your instincts, because, you know, those voices that speak to you is really just God speaking out and letting you know what's truly going on. For any information on my book, you can go to warriormom.com. For any information on the nonprofit,
And your book, they can check out your book as well.
You can go to
And
Autism Health. And
yep.
for the
And I saw the book is very reasonably priced, so get your copy of that as well. Give it as a gift. I mean, not all parents in this space know about the resources, and some people are more secluded than others, even in 2025. I mean, gosh, not everybody even has internet, I guess, out in some areas in this day and age, which is still kind of crazy. So do what you can. I always say, if you listen to the show, the resources are there. They're in my descriptions on all the channels. And so I hope that some of what we bring you will be helpful to you, your family, your friends, people at church that, you know, I mean, everybody has huge communities now. And so the goal of this World Wide Web, as I can see it, is to use it, I always say, for our good and not their good, which is the ads and the selling and the clicks and all of that stuff, and the TikToks. I don't even have TikTok, but all the other nonsense that they promote with this. It really should be used as an information highway, as it was meant to be. And I can imagine better information to share than what Tracy Slepcevic has brought to us today with her initiative or organization, autismhealth.com. So I encourage everyone to check all the links out, get involved as you can, whether it's volunteering, donating, or sharing her information. You can potentially, and most likely, I think, would help somebody somewhere. And that would be, I think, the best goal that we could all strive for every single day. If we just do that, I say that in the golden rule, I guess. If we just follow the golden rule, every single person, you probably don't need to follow every single rule, but that one would make a difference. And then if we all pay it forward, even with just sharing amazing information to help others, I think that would be a great start. So I really want to thank you, Tracy. Thanks for the delay and working with me on that. And I'm glad we finally got you on.
Well, thank you for having me. And if I could just leave with one last thought, that, you know, I just say be love. In a world full of hatred, just be love. There's so much anger out there. You know, just come from a loving space. And God bless everybody.
That's perfect. Thank you to end on that. All right. Have an amazing day. If you want to hang out in the back, we'd love to have you. If not, and you have to go, we totally understand. I hope to see you again. Hope to see you at America Fest this December. I'll be there with Grassroots 50 and Total News. If you're in Arizona, please stop by our booth and we will do a sit down in person, and I will shake your hand and hug you and meet you for real. Although we did last year, but I know that
I do remember
drive by
at America Fest. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little, it was literally a, yeah, like I walked by, I said hello, tried to get you over, but I think you talked to Ray, actually.
I did.
I think Ray, yeah. So Ray and he was on the show with me last week. We did a tribute, or 2 weeks ago, to Charlie Kirk here, and he and I worked together for years. So I'm in with them. So hopefully we will see you and Steve. So
Absolutely.
until then, have an amazing rest of your year.
You too. God bless.
Thank you, Tracy. God bless you guys too.
Bye.
Okay, so that was so nice to have her, because I've been trying to get her on for a few months and things come up, of course, for everyone. So I'm grateful that we heard from her after we heard Krista Petracco Born on, because she, you know, she has a lot of firsthand information, and her knowledge, depth of knowledge is greater. And so I just think what she said is so helpful today, and the new things that are coming out, the Leucovorin that we haven't heard about, I think widely, but some of the parents knew about. I think it's great. The Walmart thing she brought up, that they're going to be doing away with the additives and take things off their shelves. I mean, I can't wait to see that happen. That's going to be amazing. Personally, I think they could probably take, 10 products for each product line off the shelf, and we can just go back to a few options of everything. I don't think we need 10 of everything to choose from. That's my opinion, but I think it's a little oversaturated. So with that, we do not have a MAGA minute So I guess there's too much going on. But what we do have is something I wanted to bring up because we talk about our military, we talk about our law enforcement a lot. We heard earlier Kristi Noem's statement, Secretary Noem, that that our military and our law enforcement, they're going to go without pay during this time of the government shutdown. And I'm sure that I feel like they're probably doing it completely willingly because that's the kind of service that they provide and the kind of people that they are. And so this last video I want to bring up is Secretary Pete Hegseth from our Department of War. And it's on the qualifications for men and women in combat. I know there's a lot of pros and cons that people say, but a few months ago in July, I had on a couple Marines for the Armed Forces Day celebration in San Diego we attended. And I asked, Leo McSweeney, he is a former Marine veteran, and Martin Lopez were on together. And I asked him about women in combat because I've always thought that it seems a little dicey, frankly. If you're in a fighting situation and there's bombs and bullets flying, everybody is capable of certain things as a person, but genders are designed also in a certain way by design, and we can't change that. And so he actually did bring this up, that it is not only is it dangerous somewhat physically if they can't do the job, but it's also distracting in a way because you do have the two gender issues that happen. They're in very close quarters or traveling around. So Secretary Hegseth is bringing this to light. He is doing a lot of changes to our military. I think he's trying to equalize everything. So it's basically gender neutral. There are going to be requirements. And if you're a man or a woman, you either meet the requirements or you do not meet the requirements. It's not about being a man or a woman. It's about being able to perform the job to the best of one's ability so that all the people in line with you in war, let's say, are protected equally and with each other as a team, and there's no weak links. I think that's the bottom line. So let's hear our last video of the day from Secretary Hegseth on number 7.
This, and I want to be very clear about this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire. You know this is the only standard you would want for your kids and for your grandkids. Apply the War Department Golden Rule, the 1990 test, and the E6 test, and it's really hard to go wrong.
So yeah, pretty much what I said. I mean, actually, he used words that I used, and so that's what it is. Gender neutrality in war. It's not about girls and guys. It's about who can perform the task as best as it needs to be performed, whether that is shooting at somebody else, whether that is recon, whether that is up and flying the planes, whatever that task is across the military lines that we have. Everybody has to be able to perform at the same level, which is really the highest level possible. This is life and death, not only theirs. I mean, they have families. They're protecting the people on either side of them. They're protecting people in buildings nearby. They're protecting civilians where we travel around the world to help protect. So people need to realize that it's not a sexism thing anymore. It is just a effectiveness, productivity thing. And I think it's a good thing that they're addressing this in this way. along with some of the other things that have been addressed since President Trump came in. Title IX, I will bring that up because that is an ongoing battle. We still have people who are opposing that federal mandate and allowing transgenders in sports, which is illegal at this point in our country. So I think this will be a positive overall, and I hope that they put these things in place that will stick for any administration going forward, so that our military is strongest and best as it possibly can be forevermore for our safety here as well. We're going to close out the show. It was a really great time to have Tracy Slepcevic. Please check out all of her websites and her book we mentioned earlier, autismhealth.com, ahsconference.com. You can also find that on her event link. Her book is warriormom.com. You can get that on Amazon and I think a couple other locations if you click that link. Also in my descriptions, find her on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Her Facebook group is Autism Unfiltered. So you'll want to get on there, share that with other parents you know might be in this space and who might need resources and help. But I want to thank everyone today for tuning in across the channels to American Perspective here in Arizona. And I also, of course, want to thank Robert Johnson, who helps us in California with Chula Vista Live Data. He also helps run Arizona Live Data on Facebook. And you can find him on Facebook and X at JData17. Catch up with him. He brings, you might have seen it on my channels last night. He did a live from one of California's or one of their government organizations. Water board. Okay, perfect. I did take it off because it was totally mislabeled, but sometimes you'll see them pop up. So you can see what he does. He puts a camera in the government in a room where they're having a meeting. And he just lets you hear what your officials are talking about live and uncut and uncensored, so you know what's happening in your city. And he does that all different states with different podcasters. So check them out when you get a chance. To learn more about our guest, Tracy Slepcevic, please visit my channels. Resources and links are in the descriptions at Patreon_mom007. That's on all the channels except X, which is PMOM007. Please follow, like, and share. Most importantly, if you run across my content and want to help others learn about maybe something they don't know yet. And hopefully we brought you great resources today. Also get involved if you're going to, help your communities, your families, your city, state, your county levels, which definitely need as many people involved. You have to get educated in those areas as well. So the resources we bring with the product lines or with the organizations that I bring to the show, this also applies in your community. To have a strong community, a strong family, you do need to educate yourself. There's a lot going on these days, and it's hard to keep track of everything. I didn't hear about the Walmart announcement, and so you just don't know what you don't know. And the only way to find out is to research and ask other people for the information so you can then help others in the area that you think is most important. Elections around the corner, they're coming up in November. There's some very important elections around the country. I'm sure you've heard about the New York situation and Mamdani, and he's a democratic socialist, which they say he's just a socialist. That is going to be very interesting if it plays out the way they're anticipating him getting into that office. We hope that does not happen. We don't want these experiments to keep happening. We already know what that looks like from the other communist socialist countries, right? We see what happens. But you do have the right to vote, and you need to vote your conscience, but you also need to remember what you vote for today is going to affect your family, your kids, and your communities for a while down the road, 2 to 4 years. So be educated about it and know that what they're doing today, what they're saying today, if it's against law enforcement, if it's against our ICE agents, if it's against the community in general, your children, the safety of others and yourself, I would say not to vote for those people, in my opinion. I hope that would be your take as well, and not vote for the personality of the people that you see on commercials or whatnot, but vote for what they stand for and what they will bring or not bring to you as a person in your family and your community. So with that, next week, we are going to hear again, he's going to join me, Sheriff Richard Mack from here in Arizona. He was on with us a couple weeks ago. He graciously kind of stepped back. He ended up weighing in on the unfortunate and horrifically tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. He was scheduled to be a guest a few weeks ago, but came in as a sheriff, law enforcement perspective for us on that situation. We're going to host him again and hear what he's doing with CSPOA, his sheriff organization. And there's ways to get involved, I think, in that as well. So we look forward to hearing from Sheriff Mack next week. So until then, we wish you guys the best this weekend. Hopefully you'll be doing something amazing in general with your family, friends, something fun and relaxing over the weekend. So have a great one. We look forward to seeing you next week on American Perspective here on Friday. It's at 12 noon Mountain, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And that's with me, your host, Noelle Roberts, Patriot Mom 007 here in Arizona. And with that, I'll have Robert take us out.